What if the biggest communication problem in your life isn't your words? It's the belief underneath them, because the belief you carry becomes the tone you use, and the tone you use becomes the result you get. If you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, that's not what I meant, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Masters of Wellness podcast, where we explore the latest insights, personal journeys, and business innovations shaping the future of health and well-being. I'm Edward Curtin, 30 plus years in global wellness, bridging Eastern wisdom and Western science, together with our co-host of Curiosity, Chuck, helping leaders build personal success and launch and scale businesses. Today, we're talking about mindset and communication, because everything begins with our thoughts and the beliefs that we hold. Those beliefs shape how we interact, what we attract, how we collaborate, and ultimately the results we receive. Joining us is Grace Simon. Grace has spent nearly 2 decades in real estate and leadership, but her true passion is helping people step into a life of clarity, purpose, and joy. She combines mindset coaching, disc consulting, and her own journey of faith and wellness to guide women and professionals toward living intentionally. For Grace, success isn't just about what we achieve, it's about how aligned and fulfilled we feel on the inside. Grace, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be with you tonight. Thanks so much for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. And Grace, before we go deep, let's look at a simple version first so people know what this episode is about. So when you say mindset and communication, what are we really talking about?
Well, communication is everything, right? And it's not the words. The words that we use is actually the least amount of how we communicate. And so when I say mindset and communication, it's the vision, the belief that we hold on the inside is going to carry out. Everything is energy. So if we have a belief about ourselves that we hold on the inside, what we communicate, what we deliver will not come across the way that you're meaning for it to happen. The other person on the other side is not going to get the message.
Who do you believe would be the people that would most be interested in the topic today? Like, who are we speaking to today?
We're speaking to everyone. Communication is everything, right? But specifically, someone that's trying to improve on their relationships. They feel like they're hitting a wall. They can't get their message across, and they feel like they're constantly having to explain themselves. So people that are in relationships, this conversation is going to be really helpful. And then for those that are stepping into a new career or are trying to up level their business, their entrepreneurship, communication is really so important when you're making those calls or you're stepping into the boardroom, or, if you have a person in front of you, communication is the most important thing to getting anywhere that you're trying to go in life.
I once heard a phrase which I've always remembered, which is communication can be the lock or the key to your success. Bad communication
100%.
becomes
Yeah.
your lock, but great communication becomes your key. So just
I
on
love
that
that.
point there, like what's a typical struggle that you see people have with communication? Like when people come to you to ask for advice, what's the main struggle that you see appearing over and over?
Their main struggle is that they feel like they are backfiring with their conversation all the time. They feel like they have to go over everything, re-explain because they're just misfiring on what they're trying to communicate. They
Do you
feel
have an
they're
example
not
of that?
being understood.
Is there an example that comes to mind?
Yeah, I was with a client the other week, and she was sharing how she had gotten an email from uh, from her boss, giving questions about. She's in insurance as well, and her boss was firing off some questions because he saw some gaps in a policy, and so he was asking her some questions, and she just reacted. She got all she got all upset and emotional about it, and She reacted trying to defend herself, and so she called up and she said, "I hate that this happens. Why do I get so emotional? Why do I, get so defensive? Why do I, do this? I wanna be like so and so when they're able to communicate." So, I was able to just take her through some detaching herself from a belief that, that she needed to defend herself, that she needed to protect herself, that she's a professional, she knows what she's doing, so I helped her to build a belief, and attach her to the belief that she wants, the person that, she sees as how she wants to represent herself. I took that image of what she enjoyed and I attached it to herself of before you reach out to your boss or before you respond, see yourself standing there delivering the message. How does you feel? How do you look? What's your stance? What are your words? How do they sound? And go through that before you deliver that message, before you speak it. Have an intention to how it is that you want to deliver that message. And a few days later, she reached back. She said, "That worked so well. I delivered my message so perfectly, and there was understanding, and I felt like I was heard, and we had such a great conversation. And through that, I gained a better understanding of what he was trying to communicate to me. I was able to put down my guards and not be so defensive." And that's what we do, right? A lot of times is that we're trying to defend ourselves. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want to um, misrepresented, or we want to have be understood well, and so we end up going on the attack instead of with the intention.
Race, do you
Absolutely.
find that ego is one of the largest culprits of communication challenges?
100% it is. Another, issue that people find, especially in the workplace, is they'll say, "He's so hard to read." She's so I don't know if she likes me. And for the person that hears when I've said, I'm like, "You're coming across like you don't like them." You make them they're very intimidated. They feel intimidated in your presence. And when they hear that, they're like, "Really?
Right.
Why?" How do they because they're not paying attention to how they come across because they're really protecting themselves.
Mhm.
They're having a dialogue within instead of making it about the other person, they're really making it about themselves, and then they're misunderstood. And so that's an ego, right? That's your ego saying, I want to protect myself. I want to wear my armor so that nobody can hurt me.
That's
And
interesting.
that's a concern in communication.
I heard this analogy of if you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you some medication and you go back a week later and the doctor says you have reacted to the medication. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's bad, right?
Bad.
You've
It's
reacted.
bad. He's
But if
reacted
you go back to
exactly.
this, if you go back to the doctor and the doctor says, you've responded to the medication, then that's a good thing. And in communication, people tend to either react or respond. And react is like the first instinct that comes to mind without thinking. And oh, I don't like how they said this. I'm going to send that text message to them right now without thinking. And there's a big reaction and it tends to explode into something unnecessary. But responding is, as you said, take that time to digest what the other person is trying to communicate and look for the kindness way to respond to that. And you find that you can often cool down a lot of heated situations if you just take a few moments to pause and reflect and think about what's the best way I can phrase this. And someone that I know recently broke up with his girlfriend, and I asked him like, how did it happen? And he said, oh, well, she sent me a message that kind of triggered me or upset me. So I immediately sent a message back saying, defending myself and what about what you did last year? This type of thing, totally reacting and then exploding up. And then the girl then replied back, oh, let's take a break. And, after reflecting, when I explained to him if he had taken some time and looked at what was it that she was trying to communicate, and how would you better have responded, then it would have been a totally different outcome.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. To get a different outcome takes listening.
Yeah.
Communication, a lot about communication is being able to listen over speaking.
Yeah. And that's something actually I learned from Chuck, because Chuck has worked in sales for a lot of his career. And he always says, listen, 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 like 80% listening and 20% talking. And the talking is usually asking questions, right? So actually you're still inviting more communication from the other person. That's certainly been very effective, something I've learned from Chuck.
Naturally, as a gentleman, we still don't know when to shut up. So you have to. I always have to find the plug where it says stop, stop talking. Like right now, it's like stop talking, just ask good questions.
Yeah, another communication issue breakdown is over processing out loud.
Mm,
Those people that over process, sharing too much, too fast. They
Mm,
feel safe by oversharing, over
yeah,
processing.
thinking
yeah.
out loud. Yes.
Yeah.
No one else can think around you. You're out loud. Yeah.
What should I say now? Let
Yeah.
me think about it.
It's hard.
Okay, well, Grace, this certainly is shaping up to be a really interesting and I think an entertaining episode. Can you just help us to understand a little bit of context about where you've come from that's brought you into this career that you're doing now? Because you haven't always been a great communicator and someone that teaches others. What were you doing before?
Yeah, with the interest of growing my real estate business, getting into city council, I recognized that I needed to strengthen my communication, my leadership skills. In the real estate company that I'm in, it's a brand new brokerage. It's called EXP Realty. And part of our responsibility is to help it grow. And I just recognized that I needed some growth. I needed some help in that area. And so I was introduced to John Maxwell. I don't know if you've ever heard of John Maxwell. He's the most influential leader developer in the world, non-celebrity leader developer in the world. And so when I got involved with John and became a certified coach with him and part of the community, my life completely changed and learning about personal development. A lot of us just learn as we go, and we use failure and success as our teacher, and that's not necessarily the best way to learn. And it's being in the right environment, being surrounded by the right people, as the two of you had a synergy and you connected, and you've really grown yourselves with that synergy and that connection with each other, that now you're wanting to even grow it even more by inviting people that are similar mind, that love and passionate about growth and entrepreneurship. You just want to surround yourself with them all the time, because as you do, life gets bigger, life gets fuller. And so that's really what happened. Is I got in a room with like-minded people that were in love and passionate for personal development and bringing influence and leadership to the world in a time when leadership is in crisis. So that's just been my major driver in becoming a mentor and a teacher. And I've been involved in faith ministry all my life, and so we've always had people, and that's what we did, was counsel. And learning how to coach rather than counsel has really been an interesting experience as well.
And the cross section of people that you work with, like you mentioned that you've been to different countries, you travel for your work, which means that you're exposed to different cultures, different ways of communication, and also everything from government level people to everyday mums and dads. So, how do some of those misunderstandings of communication show up in real life? Like, what are some examples of, oh, that shouldn't have happened because someone has communicated in a way that was probably not optimal?
Yeah, traveling around the world, learning different cultures is the most precious gift that you can give to yourself, because it really does increase your EQ, your emotional intelligence. It's when you learn about people, and you get really interested with people, you take more interest in them over yourself. The more that you know, the more that you learn, the more that you learn that you don't know. So I think that we go into relationships or in different cultures, people of different cultures, and we assume that they talk like us, they perceive like us, right? They respond like us. And that's where the disconnect comes, and we break rapport with people by the assumption that everybody talks like us, or we take the stereotype of how we think they should be, and there's a disconnect. I can give you an example. When I was in China just recently, every time I sat down to the table, they were surprised that I knew how to use chopsticks and that I like spicy food. Every single time I sat down to eat, because of what I look like and where I'm from, they asked, "You know how to use chopsticks? You like spicy food?" To the point of, yes, what makes you
Yeah,
think that I
absolutely.
can't, right?
But
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And actually, when Chuck was here recently, the exact same thing happened to him from me. I was surprised that he could handle such spicy foods because I've been here a long time, so I'm kind of accustomed to it. But he was
yeah,
straight into
ninja
the hot pot and
chopstick.
the level 5 chili. And another interesting thing, because Chuck did come out to the village where my wife's family is from, and the village people, they're different from the city people. You know, they're very close. They're how to say, they party, they
Mm.
like to drink and hug each other and laugh and play cards and everything. Like, it's really an incredible environment to be in. But if you were a visitor showing up and you said, "Oh, no, 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 I don't smoke," or, "Oh, no, no, no," yeah, if you just sort of stayed in the corner and tried to be quiet, you would not fit in. And when I first came to China, one of the first managers team building days that I went to, we went out to dinner. There was like 30 managers from the company that I was working with. And at that time, I was a non-drinker. When I came to China, I was clean health, baby, you know, no drinking, no smoking, organic food, everything. But one of the managers came up to me to cheers me, and I was drinking a glass of Coke because I didn't want to drink the baijiu or the beer or whatever they were drinking. And she said, "Cheers, Ed." And I said, "Oh, no, no, I don't drink." And she looked at me, she said, "If you don't drink, you will not be able to succeed in China." And as a guy, I have to say, honestly, it's the truth. I tried to hold out for as long as I could, but over time, I found out a way to be able to manage it where if you're the person cheersing with them, then you're controlling the flow of alcohol. But if you're just sitting down and everyone's coming to you, you're going to have 30 people come to you. But if you just go to one or two of the leaders and cheers with them, then that's it. The night's done. So there's also some clever ways to work around it.
I experienced that time when I'm in China. Oh, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I learned that when
Yeah.
I was in China. Very important, but it's true. To know your environment, where you are, whose room are you stepping into, and being willing to meet others where they're at is
Mm.
super super important.
Mm.
Clarity is confidence, right? When you have clarity with the intention of the message that you want to deliver, your confidence goes up. Even tonight, for example, we were out for dinner, and my son had asked me, "Oh, mom, Are you running again for politics? For city council again next year?" And my husband, he responds and he says, "Well, it depends on who's running." That could have been a real snag for me. Like that, you have to really watch what other people are saying, because other people can be delivering their protection for you. I don't know. You don't know what people are going to say, but you can get really snagged really easily. And I paused for a second to hear that statement, and I asked the question, why would it matter who's running against me? I'm the best person there is. Like, no one can run against me. Like, why would it matter about who's signing up to run against me? Like, that's not even a thing. But we could get so easily snagged and our confidence taken away if we take on somebody else's limitation or somebody else's response. Like, our mindset is everything. Change your mindset, change your life. And it's very, very true, because if you're at an animal level of reaction and you're just reacting when somebody says something, then your confidence is never going to grow. Your intention is never going to get stronger. Your confidence is never going to get built to level that you want to see succeed at. And so it's in those moments when somebody says something, they don't even know why they say what they're saying. You can get so easily tripped. But when you hold your intention and you want to hold your confidence, of who you are, whose you are, and why you're doing what you're doing, when those snags come, you're real quick to not be trapped, to be able to respond and communicate the way that you need to.
Grace, do you think that maybe this stems from the self-talk first?
100%. The conversation has already happened within yourself before you've delivered it.
Or the way you talk to yourself? Because then if you talk to yourself like that, generally we talk to ourselves worse than we talk to everybody else. But if you're going to talk to yourself really bad, then you're going to probably just be a step below that with everybody else, right?
Yeah, John says that you see the world the way that you see yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't see yourself as confident and strong and assured, you're going to see the world like that as well. And you're not going to give the best of yourself to the world because you don't have the best belief about yourself. And I had to overcome that with real estate. I remember doing door knocking, and between every door, I'd be like, I hate door knocking. I hate door knocking. I hate this. I don't want to do it. So every door that I went to was absolutely painful. It was torture because my self-talk between every house was painful. And what was it? What was the truth? There was a belief there. I didn't really hate it. How do I know? I didn't do enough. I didn't knock enough doors in order to hate it. I was worried about the rejection that might occur at the next door. I was worried about the rejection. I was trying to protect myself by telling myself I hated door knocking when I was just afraid of being rejected. Getting into
Mm.
politics and having to knock thousands of doors gets you over that fear of rejection. Right now, I love door knocking. I love to train other agents or people thinking about getting into politics. Anybody that wants to door knock for something, I'll go with them because I love it, because I've gotten over that fear and I've changed that self talk. When I had to go run for a second term, I'm like, oh, I got to go door knocking. They probably don't want to talk to me. They haven't seen me in a while. That rejection thing came about. I'm like, what? No, that's not true. I've never had anybody reject me at the door. We've always had great conversations. And this is my self-talk that I've learned to train myself, that when that doubt, when that old belief, because it likes to pop in every so often and say hello to you. But when you've trained your mindset, when you've trained that belief that you hold within yourself to how you want it to be, when that old belief comes and it tries to snare you, just like when somebody says something that tries to snag you, tries to trip you, when you have your mindset assured, you know how to respond to yourself and to respond to others.
And Grace, can we
And that gives
maybe,
you success.
yeah, can we take a practical tool from that? Because what you've just spoken about there works really, really well for you. And I think it's a valuable skill for people to practice. How would you recommend like turning what you just said right then, like having Chuck always uses the acronym FEAR, false evidence appearing real, right? Fear is false
Yeah.
evidence appearing real. When people have that fear and taking that step to seeing it a different way, like changing your mindset, what that tool that you use, how would you recommend people use that or be able to practice that?
So there's a tool that I use, and it's about shifting your state and visualizing. I do a lot of visualizing. So if I'm when I'm training agents and helping them with communication or preparing for a listing presentation or door knocking, and I mean, there's evidence tests done in sports and in all fields of life that when you visualize first, when you prepare of the outcome of how do you want this experience to be, play it
Mm.
out in your mind first and get it into your modalities. How do you want to feel? Like when you think about this moment, when you're walking into the boardroom or you're going into a listing presentation, or you're going to knock on the door, see yourself. Like see yourself in that place, walking up the street. How does your body feel? Like stand up and and hold your shoulders back and lift up your face and look in the direction that you're heading. See the people in the room. Who are they? Who are the people in front of you? See them smiling at you, responding. And so we do a visualization role play, which is so important because you want to anchor that. You want to anchor that belief. You want to anchor that strength so that they've already had the experience before they've walked into the room. Before they've gone there, they've already role played. They've already had that experience. They've had the outcome that they want to have. And it's really quite amazing. It's astonishing actually on the difference of success that people have immediately of just making these mindset shifts of visualization, carrying getting a hold, anchoring the belief that they want to have, knowing the intention, getting really clear on what it is that they want to deliver. You know, who are they with? What is the outcome that you want to make? That nothing just happens. Everything is based upon intention. Everything is energy. And it always happens in that place of energy. It always happens in that place of desire and creation first, and you can be in control of the delivery. You be control of the message, and then you get the outcome that you want.
So you just mentioned the word intention there, which kind of ties in perfectly to a question I wanted to ask you. In my experience working in many different companies where you often have senior leaders they may have propelled themselves to that position because they're an owner or because they've fast tracked their way in some way. But quite often you do find leaders all over the world that are in positions that you kind of question, why is that person there? But one of the traits that I see often is people in those positions, they tend to say things like, I'm going to be direct with you. Let's talk logically. I'm going to be honest with you. Like they kind of preempt what they're about to say with what appears to be like some type of attempt to say, I'm about to insult you, but I'm explaining why I'm doing it. So have you got examples of how that happens, like why people do it? And then what's an alternative, like for people that want to improve their communication skills and they're about to say something like that? I want to be honest with you, or, I'm being the bigger person, or let's be logical. Like what's some alternatives to that type of communication?
Well, I have a superpower trick that is really good to understand when you have somebody that walks in and they're being authoritative or they're being direct. And that's the disprofiling is knowing somebody's personality based upon who they are. And so I use the DISC behavioral system and do assessments. But when you get to know and when you get into a room with somebody, you can pick up what disprofile they are, then you immediately know the way that you need to speak with them or the way that they're speaking with you and how you need to respond back to them to build rapport because you can take a hold of the scenario and build rapport without them even realizing that you're taking control of the conversation.
I think the DISC system is fantastic. I learned it many, many years ago. It's been very valuable and helpful in my life. For people that have never heard of it or they're new to it, explain what it is and how it works and what's a particular trait about each of those four characters.
Okay, yeah, sure, absolutely. Because the person that you described coming in and being directive and let's get to the point, and they come across very cold and guarded, but they are dominant. They're probably the CEO, the director of the company, and they really are to the point type of people. And CEOs are not the type of people that should be having an interview or engaging on a personal emotional level with the person, but quite often if they're in the wrong role, right, doing the wrong job, then they're not going to come in and take the interview well, or they're not going to communicate in the right way to the other person because it's just not suitable for them. With a D, it's the dominant personality. They're straight to the point. They're the Donald Trumps. They're I'm going to plow over everybody. I know where I'm going. I have somewhere that I'm headed to. Like I have an agenda. I have a vision. They're the drivers. They're 2% of the people in the world because the world can only handle a few percentage, right? They're just really don't, we need them. And all of us have something of everything in there. So it's not negative or positive or whatever. We all have some of it, but we tend to ride in two of the categories out of the four at a higher level than the other two. And so the D is very direct, they're very dominant, but their greatest fear is being taken advantage of. So when you identify this person across from you as a D, then you know that you need to be direct and to the point, giving them what they're asking for, and make sure that you can match and mirror their dominance. Because they're not going to be they're not going to be threatened by you. You're going to actually get respect from them by understanding. The eyes, they're the influencers. They're persuaders. They're like the light of the party. They're dancing and singing, and they're easily distracted. These are your salespeople. Like they love people. They love a good time. They won't remember your name, but they'll but they'll make you feel really good and really special. You need these people to be your sales. Everybody loves them. You want them in your room. They're your leaders. They're your frontliners. The S's, they're the steadies. These are, for me, being an ID, I need a very strong S in my life. They're the golden administrators. They're very
Mm.
conscientious. They like other people to have the stage, to be in the limelight. They want to make you so successful. They get so happy to see other people succeed, but they don't want the attention on them. They really love rules. They like processes, and they can come across cold. They're not people pleasers, right? They like their duties, they like the task, they like to get to it, and they want to make sure that they're doing the right job for you. It's really, really important that they get it right. C is conscientious. They're very detailed. You cannot give them enough details. They love details. They won't make a decision until they have all of the facts and all of the details. You need to give them a timeline in order for them to do the best job that they can for you. There has to be a set expectation because they're your perfectionists. They're going to want to make sure that everything is dotted and crossed before delivering. So, they're your accountants, right? They're your bookkeepers. They're your policy keepers that you need in business. So by knowing that, the type of personality really helps to flow that communication, put people in the right positions in companies. It really is life-giving. So then when you have somebody that comes in and is forward and seems dominant, direct to the point, you'll know how to respond. If there's someone, with an I personality and they're bubbly and light, you want to match them. You want to keep with the same pace that they're pacing with. You don't want to, if somebody's speaking fast like me, you don't want to come in and try to bring me down to your level. You want to match me and then bring me down to a level that you're comfortable, but you want to lead me out of that conversation. So and S is the same thing. You don't want to go in and just like, oh, let's go, rah, rah, rah. Be over the top, jubilant people. You want to come in, slow your pace down, match and mirror them, bring them security and steadiness and assurance, and then they'll follow you. Like they'll be completely committed to you and trust you because you've demonstrated trust towards them by pacing at their level, speaking at their tonality, at their speed.
It's something that has been very useful in designing fitness and wellness centers, like learning the importance of designing spaces that are suitable for each of those types of personalities. Like for an I style, when they come in, they want to see the group exercise room, where people have got the Zumba classes going and they've got community and everyone's playing together. And then the D styles, they want to see where the powerlifting stuff is or the strength training, and they want to get in there and they want to see the other big guys and the strong ladies in there, and they want to challenge themselves. And then the S people, they tend to look for the quieter, soft lighting, yoga classes, Pilates, and things
Exactly.
like that. Yeah. And then the C styles, they're very interesting because they've already researched your fitness center before they showed up. They already know all the classes, the prices, who the coaches are, what times you're open, and everything. They've done all the research, so it's very interesting when you talk to them. So that's like for fitness and wellness businesses. But do you have other examples for business owners that are watching this podcast? Like, how can they use some of these skills in a practical way for sales, as an example?
Yeah, for your sales is everything with knowing the disc profile, right? If knowing who your clients are. For us, for in real estate, it's so important that you know the disc profile. In fact, part of my buyer seller process is them taking a disc test for me so that we can make sure that we have the best rapport between one another. There's an understanding. We're meeting the needs of our clients. We're meeting the needs of our people. And if you have a team, you want to make sure that you're putting people in the right position so that they can show up confidently, with security, knowing that they're meant for this position. Like you fit the profile, that you're not stretching out your employees because they're in the wrong position. They just don't work well in that state. So you keep them stressed out all the time. So by knowing their disc profile, or you knowing your disc profile and knowing the disc profile of others, you're going to have the best communication and be able to build rapport, and of course get the outcome, making sales transactions, building great relationships for a long period of time, over the decades. You're going to win their kids and their kids.
Of course, we got to be careful though, because if everybody knows the disc profile, everyone's gonna be like this. Literally gonna be miming each other. Like, that guy looks like he's doing S stuff. Let me do the S stuff. Obviously a joke, but at the same time, what about the chameleons? And that's a real thing. And I am literally a chameleon because I am a dominant everything in those categories. And it really does depend on the phase of life, the day, what I'm actually working on. You might think I have like 5 different personalities. I am all dominant, all of those.
Really? You're dominant in all of those?
Every single one.
Yeah. Amazing.
Is that not a thing?
Is it a thing? Well,
Is
clearly, if
that
you are,
literally I'm a disc.
you've done your disc and it was all just straight line.
Oh, of course, no. It gave me an answer. I think it was mostly but you go through that again, and every time I read the other, like the actual profiles, I'm like, that's totally me too. That's totally me too. I'm reading everybody else's profile. I'm like, oh my god,
Did you actually do the assessment though? Did you actually do the assessment with my
wow?
my camera just zoomed out at me. Oh no, I don't know how to get it back.
And now for Grace's words of wisdom.
Yeah, it zoomed.
Did you do the
That's
disc assessment?
Cool. Let's all do it.
That's so funny.
I did. I was years ago, but I did. And I got the same feeling today listening to you go over it again that I did before. Like, well, all right, let me figure out this year. What am I? Nope, I'm every one of them. You don't find that a lot?
Wow, no.
Okay.
That's super unique. Obviously it happens because we're all a part of it, but you being dominant in all four is really, really interesting. Yeah.
I mean,
when I saw Chuck here, my experience with Chuck, obviously people change according to their environment, right? If they're in a work environment or with government officials, they're going to be different to what they're like with their family. But certainly when Chuck was on a short holiday here, the I style was shining through big time. And I think maybe one of the character traits of an I style is they're people persons. So they're able to read other people and interact according to what other people, how other people are responding.
Maybe that's why I feel so dominant in all of them, because I'm just sort of an immediate chameleon or something.
I do remember. I remember a clever little, I guess, example is a D-style person. If you look at the car they drive, it might be something like a black BMW or a black Mercedes-Benz. And then an I-style might be a yellow V-dub, a yellow VW. And an S-style might be a white Prius, something that's conservative. And then the C-style might be like a Volvo or something that's been designed for fuel economy, and they've done all the research on it. The D-style wants something that's just strong and looks like power. Is that true? Like, have you ever sort of checked out what car people are rolling up in and get an idea of them before they show up to a meeting?
Absolutely. And how they're dressed. The colors that they wear, everything tells me exactly. Them showing up early, showing up on time, showing up late, that tells me that a part of their personality. So
Mm,
it's little things. It's not big, loud demonstrations. It's, paying attention to those little nuances that you understand, that you pick up. So when I'm meeting a new client, you know, watching their body language, their tonality, their pace, their words. Are they auditory? Right? Are they visual? Are they feelers? That really determines the type of words that I use when I communicate with them. Because
mm.
it's all about the other person, right? The communication is about the other person, not yourself.
I'm curious right now, how did this help you with your politics? Did it control? Did you have like, were you really conscious of how you were giving, like what body language you were giving off, like the words you were using? Did it help you? Did it maybe slow you down a little bit?
being in the being in a council chambers, man, it's completely different. I don't know how to communicate. I'm still learning how to communicate in the council chambers. It's so intimidating. It's very different because I'm a feeler. I like to connect with people, right? I like to feel that connection and drive the conversation through that connectivity. And in the council chambers, it's a political ring, right? You're concerned about the media and what they're going to send out directly after the meetings. You have to watch what you have to say, and you're not making connections with people. You're listening to presentations. So I had to learn a whole new way of communicating when it came to politics and dealing with constituents. It's been a really fascinating journey of communication.
And Grace, you've developed yourself into a master communicator. Clearly, speaking with you, it's been really natural, flowing. You have paid great attention to what Chuck and I are speaking about and probably our body language. But this does not happen overnight. So, for people that are watching this podcast and they want to learn some life skills that are going to help them get out of some sticking points in their life and become better communicators, what's a playbook? Like, first do this, then do this, then do this. Like, what's like a simple playbook for people to start applying to start that journey to become a better communicator?
Well, what we've been talking about that intention, right? Of what kind of person are you growing into? Like how do you want to see yourself? How do you see yourself? And how do you want to see yourself? And how do you want others to see you? What is this the way that you want to communicate? Are you communicating well? Are you getting the message across that they're wanting to? Or are you backfiring? Or you feel like you're having to re-explain yourself? So getting aware of how you're communicating and how it is aligned with who you are and what you want to how you want to present yourself to your family and to others and getting really clear on that is super important. Intention is everything, and being able to stand in front of a mirror and having a conversation and liking yourself is really important. Standing in front of the mirror, a lot of people don't stand in the mirror easily and have a conversation. They don't like the tone of their voice. They don't like the way they look. And as we said before, the energy gets delivered through that belief, through that lack of confidence or that self love gets demonstrated to other people. So um, I think where we start at is really getting your intention clear on who you are, where you're going in life. What does that mean? Why are you doing what you're doing? Who are you doing it for? And why does it matter? And really knowing why it matters. Why does it matter that you communicate well?
Mm,
What is the importance of communicating well? For what purpose do you need to communicate? Because if you can't
Mm.
answer that, then communication's really not a priority for you. But if you can really say, what is the purpose of my communication? Why do I need to grow in communication? What is it for? And why does it matter? When you can answer those questions, then we can roadmap to where we need to go in growing your communication style.
Yeah,
Do
and I
people
would
come
also,
to you and say they have a desired outcome? Like I'm in a situation, I would like this to happen, and I'm about to go into an important meeting or have an important conversation with someone. This is the outcome I want. Do you help them then design that roadmap to get there?
Yes, exactly. And I shared it before, doing a lot of visualization, role playing, having the conversation ahead of time, hearing yourself speak, talk, and even recording yourself and going through the conversation ahead of time to build that confidence and build that intention and that assurance of how you want that conversation to go. It's like your life becomes a script, but everything should be set with some kind of intention. Live your life by flying by the seat of your pants, because that'll take you so far, but how far? Living off that love, I love to express of living off the base of good, better, or best. My communication, the way that I communicate is good, but could it be better? Oh, it's now better. Okay. Now how can I best communicate? And looking at the
That's it.
results, looking at the outcomes
Mm,
and seeing where those improvements can be made.
that's a good point, because even with the best intentions and the desired outcomes, if the outcome is not what you wanted, then you can maybe trace back to where it went wrong. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, play it back and see where it went wrong. Did I get across what my intention was? Like, am I aligned with what it
Mm,
is that I really want? Am I really aligned with how I'm communicating? Am I really aligned with who I am and what I'm trying to deliver?
mm.
That's really
And
important.
yeah, and in the age of social media, a lot of people are on Discord, they're sending text messages, they're like very quickly responding or reacting to communications. Like, what advice do you have for people when they're facing different modalities of communication? Like face to face tends to be a little bit easier because you can read people. But when people are speaking with words only through text, what's some advice you can offer there?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Communicating through text, I'd say pick up the phone and have a conversation, right? If
Mm,
you think that something's not being understood properly and you're getting, you're what you're getting back isn't aligning, pick up the phone because texting is really challenging. If that's the way that you're going to communicate, there's going to be some miscommunication because we all write differently. I like exclamation marks because I'm an I, so everything has exclamation marks. Where other people are like, "Why is she yelling at me all the time?" I'm not
right.
yelling. I'm
so
excited.
true.
Right? It's that
Yeah.
that disc profile, right? But texting is very very challenging because you don't read it the same way as the person on the other side. Texting is a terrible way to communicate, actually, and we do it because it's fast and it's easy, and it's easy if you know each other. But if you don't know someone, I have a close friend who's she's a psychotherapist, and so when we're texting back and forth, like we get so mismatched in our conversation. I'm so thankful that she's curious and she'll ask the questions, but I'm like, she's so like out to let you. See, what group did that come from? Like that is not even, it's because we're communicating totally different through text. It's impossible. So that would
Oh,
be my
amazing.
advice. If you see
Oh,
that the communication is a little off, pick up the phone and have a conversation. Yeah. Yeah.
well, Chuck's got a bunch of questions. I can see him chafing at the bit there. Chuck, over to you, buddy.
Yeah. Before the question, I wanted to add one more piece to that practical takeaway for everybody. And I think they'd be really surprised. And it sort of goes to what I said earlier, which is write down all of the parts of your life that if you became a best communicator possible, write down all the possible aspects of your life that could be better. Rewind and go back, and I gave you a few earlier that I think you probably are going to go and figure that out anyway. But there might be, as you're listening to this, there might be one thing you're like, oh man, work, probably the biggest one for most of us. That's not the only one. There's so many other aspects of that. And if you're already a good communicator, maybe you're listening to this and you're like, oh, this is good, this is helpful. well, you're probably going to be a better communicator after all this information. And I say this a lot. Right? Hopefully, you watch all these videos and you're probably like, Chuck, stop saying this, but it is so important. It's all about the inputs. Your brain is a bank account. And if you're taking withdrawals, or every thought and every word that comes out of your mouth is a withdrawal from that bank account. And if you are putting deposits in there while you're driving, that's news, politics, it's constant with deposits of negative information. The only thing that's going to eventually come out of your mouth is going to match that energy, as Grace, you keep saying. So listen to positive information like this. There's a bunch of great podcasts that we can recommend and books that we can recommend. Just comment below and ask. Make sure that the deposits in this brain, if you want to be an effective communicator, but also if you want to be successful in life, are matching what you want to have come out. So think about that as you're listening and consuming and watching things and talking to people. If the information that you're hearing and consuming isn't what you would actually want to come out of your mouth, change the channel. And the question, forgive me for going in the soapbox there, because this is your episode, not mine.
It's wonderful. No, I love it.
So you remember the movie Lincoln, right?
Yes.
After Abraham. One of the things that was fascinating, and of course, I wasn't alive during that time, so I don't know how accurate it is, but I've heard that the movie was very accurate to who he really was. I loved how he talked in stories. He didn't give you a message and give you like I just did. I preached, like gave you direction. I want to be able to give that same talk with a story. So how do you communicate effectively with stories? What exercises can you implement into life to get better at telling stories instead of telling people lessons?
My goodness. The greatest communicators in the world are through stories, right? And that's my aspiration as well, is getting really good at telling stories, because people then they go on the journey with you, right? They see themselves walking down the road and they're looking around and they're in with your story. They attach themselves to the point and to the message. And as you were saying, every input of what we're hearing, when it carries an emotion to it, it attaches ourselves at a greater measure, at a greater energy, then the likelihood is that we're going to remember what it was that was delivered to us. So by storytelling and really getting good with that is priceless. You can make anything possible when you get to that place of communication, that you're able to tell a good story at any given moment. I love that so much. I aspire that as well.
If you have any tricks, comment below. When you figure it out, Grace, come back to the episode and comment below. If I do, I'll do the same. But obviously, we can email each other. Don't text, just call. But yeah, it would be amazing. I'm sure the movie romanticized him because almost everything he said was a story. But yeah, the really good storytellers really captivate you, and it's an aspiration for sure.
And great storytellers tend to be people who have had great life experiences, because every experience that you have in your life can become a story, and you can use that story to share a message.
It's exactly it, because it's all about connecting with your audience, right? And I mean, whether it's an audience of one or it's an audience of many, when you get into the room with somebody like John Maxwell, everyone always says, I feel like he's talking directly to me. Like, he makes you feel like he says, Hi, I'm John and I'm your friend. And that's exactly how he makes people feel, is that I'm John's friend, that he's speaking directly. I feel like he's speaking directly to me when I'm in the room and there's 1,000, 10,000 people in that room, but everybody feels like John's speaking directly to them. That's powerful. That's captivating. That's communication.
It's a good example for public speaking, because a lot of people who watch our show may be in a leadership position where they're often in front of a group of people. What is a common mistake that people do when they get up on stage and the first thing they say is probably not the best thing? And what would be an example of something that's a great way to break ice and get people to immediately attune to you?
Well, it's before you go, if you have a speaking engagement and you're getting up in front of people, you definitely want to know who those people are ahead of time, right? You want to know who that audience is, and so a wrong thing would be for you to do is say, let's do something like so easy. You're walking into a church, get up to the front. You've been asked to as a guest to share about your not-for-profit organization. You're innocent, right? You get up and you start saying some off-color words and you start swearing in front of your audience. You're not going to have a good rapport. Break 'em rapport. Your message is not going to be heard because they're going to be too focused on the language that's coming out of your mouth and you have no respect. So it's really important to just take a little bit of time and get to know who your audience is, who you're communicating with. And on a positive note, again, knowing who they are is a story, sharing that connection. Try to find something that you can look at the people in the audience, look at the people in front of you, and make a connection with them. Relate to them of remembering a time or a moment of your life or connecting some part of your life to theirs of why you're in your room. Again, who why are you doing what you're doing? Who are you doing it for? And why does that matter? And no matter who you're communicating with and speaking, put that as a place card, as a place point that when you're getting up or you're speaking, I'm not speaking to promote myself. I'm speaking to make that connection. The message, what is the outcome? What is my intention of why I'm here? And so when you put that in the forefront, connecting with your audience, you're going to grab a hold of intention of the room.
Fantastic. I actually heard that TED speakers will know 6 months in advance that they've got a speaking gig, and the TED organization helps them prepare for 6 months in advance.
Wow.
Where they're going to stand, the posture, the words that they say, the opening sentence, everything is rehearsed over and over again.
And that's exactly it for speakers is that never going off of a whim, like
Mm.
scripting it, getting to know it. And for certain personalities, we like to wing it, right? We like to just go off the cuff and you think, that would get us through. But really, the more we know what we're saying, why we're saying, and what the purposes of it is, and get that scripting down, the more effective that we're going to be, and the more freedom we will have to really get personal because we know what it is that that the message that we're wanting to give, right? So there's no guesswork. We're not like having to process through our brain of what's going to come out of our mouth. So when we've scripted, when we've practiced, when we've gotten that confidence and that assurance and intentionality of what we want to deliver, we can have freedom of who we're in front of because we know it, we know what's coming out, we don't have to think about it, we can connect actually at a deeper level with our audience and the people in front of us because we know the script so well, and it doesn't sound like a script because we've brought connection to it, we've attached ourselves to it.
There is a correlation between people that are professional athletes, like a tennis player that practices their serve, or a 100-meter sprinter that practices every single step of the 100 meters. Practicing communication or practicing a script or a speech is exactly the same. Those professionals at that elite level, they have done that movement tens of thousands of times. So they don't need to think about it. And same with an elite level public speaker. Like you look at someone like Tony Robbins, he has done that tens of thousands of times. But people feel every time they attend one of his shows, it's like the first time they're getting to experience it. So it certainly does take practice. Just a reminder for people watching this episode, if you like what we're talking about, we are the Masters of Wellness podcast. We exist to make the world a healthier, happier, and more positive place. We invite guests every week to share their wonderful wisdom with us. We learn every time we have guests on the show, and we hope that more people will watch and subscribe to our channel. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share with the people that you love, and watch the episodes all the way through because we always have a special golden nugget at the end. Now, in saying that, Grace, imagine you're a leader and you're about to have a difficult conversation with an employee that could go either way. This is a person that has probably not achieved their particular KPIs and they're on the razor's edge of their employment with the company. As a leader, how do you approach a situation like that sensitively to get a positive outcome?
Yeah, that's a challenging situation to put out, right? Because the outcome is going to be disappointing, right? You're delivering something that is, no matter how well it's delivered, it's going to be disappointing. So there's times when you have to detach emotion from the delivery, and always do it with the value of the person. Like when you're delivering a message, see the person and the value of who they are, that, you know, by this step, by this process, by this release, if you're letting this person go, that really you're setting out them up for the next best thing in their life. Like there's more opportunities for them. So, but when you're delivering a message that's hard and challenging, and it's going to be disappointing for them, but you know, in your heart of hearts, you know, like in your perspectives with them, that this is a disappointment now, but they're really being set up for the next step of growth in their life. Because if they were to
Mm.
stay in that position and it wasn't right, it's not going to grow the company, but it's also not going to grow them. So by them having this experience, so when you are able to detach your emotion from that and put the best interest in that person, your delivery is going to be so much more positive. Right? It's you're gonna be a lot more relational, because you're not gonna be just like, "I just gotta get this over and done with. This is horrible. Like, they're just gonna have to figure it out." Ugh, what an awful message to have I have to deliver. But when you think about, okay, you know what? This is not working out for them. We've tried this avenue, this path. We've, tried different methods of trying to help improve them, and it's just not right. I know that there's something better for them. There's something more out there that's gonna be the right fit for them. And so by putting that forward before you go in to give the message, have the conversation, the difficult conversation with them, it's gonna come across so much more positive, so much more clear, so much more understood. There's empathy, with attached to it, right? There's compassion for that person. And so I think that's in any leader, in any position, that putting the person's value and importance ahead of what you're going to speak will be the best gameplay that you can give yourself into that other person.
It's not failure, it's opportunity. That's what
It
you're
is.
presenting.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I just thought of an incredible headline based on what you just said. Rather than thinking about how to let them go, think about how to let them grow. Put that on a poster and hang it on your wall.
I love it. It's so good.
Inspired by you. Oh my goodness, that was so cool. And Chuck, in your senior leadership position, I'm sure you've had experiences where you've had to have difficult conversations with people. Do you have an example that comes to mind?
Yeah, no, I've had a lot. And I would say I did not handle them with as much grace I wish prior to. Because that's a perfect headspace to be in before you have that conversation. Because you're right, Grace. It's so uncomfortable for the person doing it. Not that anyone has any sympathy for the person doing it, but it's so uncomfortable for them. They start playing these mind loops of what that person's going to say and how they're going to get upset, and it's just disappointing, and you don't want to be that person that's making that other person feel that way, but it has to be done, so you do just kind of have no emotion, and that's not it doesn't feel right. And you're so right that it's going to be a great opportunity for them. And and there's a reason why I think someone once said, when I had to let go of my first person, they said it just kiss. Don't worry about it. It gets easier the more you do it. And that, I thought that was so slimy. But the reason that they said that was because you understand you're not letting them go. You're letting them grow. So
Letting them grow. Fly away, bird. Fly away. Yeah,
Well,
it's true.
Grace, for people that do want to find you, we're going to include your links to your website and your workshops and so on in the description. So people that are watching, please comment what you loved about this show. Reach out to Grace. She helps people to improve their communication, which becomes the key to your success. And Grace, as we get towards the end of the episode, what are 3 main takeaways that you want people to walk away with?
3 main takeaways from this conversation that I would take with is setting your intention. Why are you doing what you're doing? Who are you doing it for? And why does it matter? And everything else will flow from that, the clarity of why you're doing it. Communication is everything. Mindset ahead of time is the key that opens the world. So the way that you see yourself is the way that you see the world. So asking yourself that question, why am I doing what I'm doing? Who am I doing it for? And why does that matter? Setting your intention and setting your mindset. And your communication is going to continue just to flourish just by living off that framework.
Fantastic. Now, this is going to help us share your message. Give us one clip-ready sentence that captures your message, something that people can replay when you're about to have a hard conversation.
Can you reframe that question for me?
Yeah. So what you just shared then about the key takeaways, put it into a
Yeah.
clip-ready sentence, something that we can then put as a title, make it as a short, and people can replay that when they're about to have a difficult conversation or they're about to require very high-level communication.
Let me think about this for a second. What do I do
That's okay.
here?
Yeah, to frame it
If
up,
you're
maybe
having
it's like, what are they ultimately getting out of this? What's the end result by effectively communicating? Start there and then back into how they got there.
Yeah.
A golden nugget.
The golden nugget of it all is it's important how when you've been when you've been with anyone, like I'm hoping that our time together, how did I make you feel? How did you how did you make someone feel when you were with them? When they walked away from you or they clicked off the Zoom call and the conversation, how did you make that person how did you make that person feel at the end of it? Tough conversation, light conversation, fun conversation. How did I make that person feel? Did they feel valued? Did they feel heard? Did they feel understood? So why am I doing what I'm doing? Who am I doing it for? And why does that matter? Does it matter to you how they feel? Does it matter how I make them feel being with someone? And for what purpose? I mean, leadership is influence.
Mm,
Influence is leadership. Everything rises and falls from leadership. And leadership is communication. And
hmm
whether we're a leader in, a government position or a CEO or a leader in our home as a mom and a father, how do we make our children feel when they're around us? How do we make the people around my council chambers feel when I'm delivering a message or I'm getting my point? It might be a tough point, it might be an argument that I'm giving, but how did I make that person feel across the table? What was
yeah.
my intention? Did I want them to feel belittled? Did I want to manipulate them? I hope not. I want them to feel heard and understood, as well as getting my point across with confidence and the delivery. But I can do it by, you know, making that person feel a part of the conversation and not making sure that it's just my point and my agenda that I wanted to deliver.
Wow, I wish more people in politics had your approach to communication. The world would be a much kinder place. So that's thank you. Thank you so much. Chuck,
She is
your big
Canadian, so
nuggets that yeah. Chuck, what's your big takeaways from today?
yeah. Look, I think back to China and back to communication. This little guy right here, this is my takeaway. Because when they first started
Love
doing this in China, I thought they were referring to what I'm familiar with, which is money. And I'm like,
money.
they must really love money. No, they love me. They love you. They love
Mm.
themselves. This is a small little heart that I saw everywhere in China. They would always just do this in pictures, a lot of this. And I think going back to Grace, a lot of what you said here, it all starts with us first. We have to love us first, because then you can actually care about trying to make sure that you're effectively communicating with everybody else. Because if you're not effectively communicating with yourself about how much you love yourself and how amazing you are, you're certainly not going to look outward and start trying to make others feel good around you. So start there. It is a really big topic, and it should be on more wellness podcasts. And I'm glad it's on ours because it involves every aspect of our lives. So thank you, Grace, for being here.
Thank you for having me. You radiate how you believe. You radiate the belief that you hold. And I mentioned before that I'm doing my Glow with Grace series because everywhere I go, people are like, "Oh, you just have this glow. You just radiate this thing." It's because I've learned to be happy, right? When you get to be happy with yourself, then you're happy with anyone and everyone that you get to spend time with, and that's fun. Life gets really really fun and really really good when you can just get into a room, sit down across the table from anybody at any kind of walk and make a connection and communicate and have a good rapport with them. That's what life is all about.
Wow, amazing. So, for people that may not be watching this on YouTube, they may be listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So, they might be driving. They might not be able to click on the link in the description. How to find Grace is go to newdoorsmentorship.com. That's new doors, as in opening new doors. Newdoorsmentorship.com. Grace, when they land there, what would you like them to do when they land on your page?
I'd love to check my page out, see the different clips that I have. But I'd love to get on a one-on-one and say hi and get to know who you are and how I can serve you.
Yeah. If this episode helped you, do 3 things. Number 1, subscribe to the channel that you're listening or watching on right now. Leave a review. It helps us to be able to share our message with more people and share it with at least one person that needs calmer, clearer conversations. And if you want more, join the Masters of Wellness community. The links are also in the show notes. Grace, thank you so much for being here. Chuck, the co-host of Curiosity, it's been a pleasure as always, buddy. Thank you so much. And we love you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you
guys.
so much, Edward and Chuck. Bye bye, everyone.